She walked out of the PTA meeting and into the night, and was never seen again. 38-year-old Laura Mitchell was a devoted mother, active in her children's school, and beloved in her community. On that September evening, she waved goodbye to other parents, stepped into the parking lot, and vanished. Hours later, her car would be found abandoned, her purse untouched inside. It looked like she had simply disappeared into thin air. But the truth, as investigators would soon discover, was far more disturbing. At first, friends and neighbors thought maybe Laura had stayed late or gone on an errand. But when her children sat waiting for breakfast the next morning and she still hadn't returned, panic set in. Her phone went straight to voicemail. Her car was discovered parked on a quiet side street, the keys still in the ignition, the doors unlocked. Inside was her purse with cash still neatly inside. Nothing about it made sense. The community rallied quickly. Flyers with her smiling face appeared on lampposts and storefront windows. Parents who had sat beside her just the night before formed search parties, combing wooded areas and parks. Police set up a hotline and fielded dozens of calls, but every lead turned up empty. Meanwhile, Laura's husband, Michael Mitchell, stood in front of cameras, pleading for her safe return. His voice cracked, his eyes glistened, and his words painted the image of a devastated husband desperate for answers. "Laura, if you can hear me, we just want you home. The kids need you," he said, choking back emotion. The public sympathized with him. He looked like a man drowning in grief. But detectives noticed something else, an unease that didn't quite match the picture he was trying to paint. Laura had no reason to disappear. She wasn't involved with drugs, she wasn't running from debts, and she had no history of instability. By all accounts, she was steady, reliable, and deeply rooted in her family and community. So why would she suddenly vanish after a school meeting? Detectives began retracing her steps. Surveillance footage showed Laura leaving the PTA meeting, walking across the lot toward her car. But oddly, there was no footage of her ever getting inside. The car itself was found later, staged in a way that raised red flags. Nothing was stolen, nothing was broken. It looked more like a setup than a robbery. As detectives expanded their investigation, their attention turned to Michael. Outwardly, he was a family man and a small business owner. But when police began pulling records, a different story emerged. Michael's financial consulting firm was collapsing. He was drowning in debt, skipping payments, and hiding overdue notices. Even worse, investigators discovered he had been siphoning money from client accounts to keep his company afloat. He was living a double life and the walls were closing in. Detectives wondered, had Laura discovered the fraud? And had her discovery cost her life? Friends and neighbors began to speak up. They remembered tension in the Mitchell household in recent weeks. Shouting late at night, Laura looking pale, tired, even fearful. One close friend recalled that Laura had confided something troubling. She suspected Michael was hiding a serious secret, one she wasn't sure she could forgive. The more investigators dug, the more suspicious Michael's timeline became. He had claimed to be home on the night Laura disappeared, watching television. But his cell phone told another story. Records showed it pinging in an industrial zone on the edge of town, miles from his house. Security cameras captured his car in that very area around the same time Laura went missing. It was the detail that broke his alibi apart. When confronted, Michael's story shifted. First, he denied everything. Then he suggested maybe Laura had left on her own, that she had been depressed. But detectives weren't convinced. He wasn't just a grieving husband. He was a man desperately trying to cover his tracks. Weeks later, the truth came to light. Search teams, combing through wooded areas near the industrial site, made a grim discovery. Hidden in a ravine, wrapped and covered with brush, lay Laura Mitchell's body. The horror became clear. Her husband had staged her disappearance. He had crafted the image of a random vanishing to buy himself time, to misdirect suspicion, and to silence the only person who could have exposed his financial crimes. The news shattered the community. Parents from the PTA who had seen her hours before now attended her funeral, weeping. Her children, too young to understand the betrayal, asked over and over why their mother wasn't coming home. Michael Mitchell was arrested and charged with murder, fraud, and obstruction of justice. In court, prosecutors laid out the chilling reality. Laura had stumbled onto his secret, and instead of facing exposure, he chose to eliminate her. His double life unraveled completely, leaving behind only ruin and grief. Laura's story is a stark reminder that sometimes the greatest danger isn't from strangers lurking in the shadows. It's from the people we trust most. Her life was stolen by the man who had vowed to love and protect her, a man who valued greed and reputation over his own family. And yet, even in tragedy, there is a message. Secrets always surface, lies eventually collapse, and justice, no matter how long it takes, will find those who think they can escape it. If you want to keep hearing stories like this, real lives, hidden truths, and the justice that always finds its way, make sure you hit the subscribe button and join our community.